Hello to anyone who's viewing this. I am starting to do these videos, which is going to be a little bit hard because I'm not really used to talking to an unresponsive audience. It's different talking to people and it's different talking to a camera, but I feel like I need to do this because I am getting so much information that I feel might be useful to many others, and this is the way to get it out there, so I'm just going to start. I am Sky, and I am in contact with star beings. I have been for the past couple of years, and as they do with many others, they guide me and they provide me with a lot of helpful information concerning the state of the world right now, and I would like to share some of it. So because I am still new to this, please bear with me. It's not so easy. So our world is in a transformation phase right now, and here again it's difficult to start pulling this off from somewhere because I don't know at what state you are concerning your information and concerning your spiritual development, because basically the root of everything is spiritual, and we have been misled to believe that the root of everything is material and material only. And if you keep going down that road, you will get yourself into a lot of difficulties because we are moving to a plane where this changes. So basically we are changing dimensions. And here it's very much up to everybody's personal will and decision where you would like to be. It's very important now to connect yourself with the spiritual realms and with the spiritual root of things, basically connect with the divine. And I'm not talking about God, because God, the word God has been, or the conception of God and the word God has been so misused in the past, and it's been used for an excuse for wars and horrible atrocities, imposing policies on cultures. So I am talking about, I would like to call it the divine. So it's very important now to reconnect with the divine. And the divine is in everything. You can find it very much in nature. So if you walk in nature and connect just with nature, you will feel what it's like to connect with the divine. It's maybe I will talk about this at some other point, because it's a very difficult thing to explain, but anything that is not connected to the divine on the long run now is not going to be able to sustain itself, because the transformation that we are going through in the universe is so big that it doesn't only contain, or it doesn't only affect the earth, it affects the rest of the universe. And anything that is cut off from the divine is going to not be able to survive on the long run, even if it doesn't look like this right now. Right now we're in the phase where everything gets out into the open, everything is being revealed, or many things are being revealed, gradually. And we are in the period of extreme polarization of the light and the dark, and the dark gets very visible. And that is important because this needs to happen in the process of recognizing it and transforming it. Now, there are different dimensions, and we right now are basically living in the third dimension here on Earth, which is a very dense one. And there are many higher dimensions above the third, and the higher you go, the more unity there is. So down below here, we're in a very polarized dimension where the light and the dark are opposites, where we feel either happiness or pain. And the higher you go, it all melts, the more it all melts into one. And this needs to be factored into the calculation, so to speak, because here down on the Earth, we're currently fighting a war. There is an attack against humanity, and it's a war of consciousness, as some people call it. And since the Earth has been very oppressed for thousands of years, this is about the situation changing and being liberated or liberating from this oppression. And the oppression is basically running through all institutions, through the system, through all organizations, and through politics, through education, through religion, through the entertainment, culture, everything. And we are currently in the transformation period where this is changing and this oppression is disappearing, even though right now it seems like it's getting stronger. And this development is the force of nature. The liberation of the world is the force of nature. It cannot be stopped, because it's like you want to switch nature off, you can't. It's a cycle that has ended, and there is no other way. It's the only way. And now it's up to us as humans to either align or despair or fear. And this basically is also our chance of evolving, because what we are in essence is much different than what we've been taught. We are extremely powerful beings. We are creators. And we create with every thought and every emotion that we put out as a vibration. And these thoughts and emotions that we put out, they are like paths. It's like you walk a path once, and then when somebody walked on a path once, it can be walked again, maybe by somebody else, and then eventually it gets a bigger path. So with our emotions and with our thoughts, we create structures that expand. And these structures then eventually become materialized in things happening, or even in physical sensation, like an illness, for example. If we think a lot of bad thoughts, then eventually it's going to make us ill. It will eventually manifest in physical symptoms. So our role in this transformation has not really been recognized to the extent that it is important. Because many people who talk about this war that's going on and this transformation, they speak about what's happening in terms of the moves in the war, the opposing sides that are doing this and doing that. And while, of course, that is very valid and needs to be recognized, our role in this whole unfolding is to basically assert a situation or a state of being by putting ourselves there. Meaning that the lower our vibration is, and the more we are in fear, in depression, desperation, the more we assert that particular state in the world, the more we are in fight, the more we are in opposition, the more we assert that state in the world. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't say no and put our borders up. That, of course, is extremely important, since there's a lot to be recognized, a lot to be understood, that and there are so many lies around us, and they are misleading a lot of people. So yes, that is very important to recognize that. But the more you push against something, the more your own energy becomes exhausted. And rather than pushing against something, it's very important to stop somewhere where you say, okay, no, I'm not going to do this, and move in another direction where it is that what you would like to do. So create something different. And so it's very important in these times to do things that you love and keep your vibration up. Go out in nature, have fun, laugh, spend time with friends, and do things for yourself to keep yourself happy and in a high vibration, because this way you are helping others out, because this is what you're spreading. And eventually all the darkness that we're going through right now also comes from the light, because everything comes from the light. We are basically on a stage where things are playing out as a story. But that is just the surface. what's behind is much, much more. And a big part of the transformation that's going on, and for us the most important part really, is to transform ourselves. And how do we do this? Now, anything that we fear, anything that we get a bad feeling about, is something that we can look at deeper inside of ourselves. Any of our fears or our wounds direct us to somewhere that needs healing. And when we heal this in ourselves, or we allow it to be healed, then it is healed also outside of ourselves, meaning this has a healing influence in the entire world. And it also is a protection, because nothing truly harmful to your soul can happen to you unless you have a resonance to it. And the resonance is in your wound or your fear. So, of course, you can try and change the world or change the vibrations around you, or I don't know, clear the energy and all these things, which of course is helpful. But a much more effective way of doing this is to clear the energy inside you, because this means that you're creating a realm around you where these things cannot enter. And this realm around you will then also affect other people. Maybe even your practices will affect other people or become known to other people and help them out too. So it's very important for your own protection, but also for the transformation in the world, to let your wounds and traumas become healed. So you cannot attract these things anymore. Even if they come, they are not going to be able to do you any harm, any serious harm. You know, that also has to do with the dimensions that we're finding ourselves in, or that we're moving into. So what happens is, sorry, I'm going to have to adjust this a little bit. Oops. What happens is that dimensions are like the aggregate states. There are different densities. Oops, sorry. And we are on the way up to a higher dimension where a lot of things are possible that have not been possible in the third dimension. But what is getting us there? What's getting us there is our own vibration. And while there is a war going on in the third dimension, if you go up higher in dimensions, there is no war, because there is no opposite. Everything is one. And we are on a massive evolving cycle that is going in that dimension. The dark has lost all soil, so to speak. There is nowhere that it can root anymore. So anything that happens now, that's the information that I have been given, anything that happens now is part of the healing process, because the dark is not going to be able to sustain itself anymore on the long run. And what is happening that appears dark is needed in order for people to wake up, to recognize, to heal, and basically for the dark to disappear, implode, so to speak. Because we are moving into a different cycle. And as I said, that's not only the Earth, but that's the entire universe. So that also stretches out to other parts in the universe. And basically all parts of the universe. And it's now very important to know that we are no victims to what's happening, because on some level or some dimension we have all agreed to everything that we have been experiencing and that we aren't experiencing. Depending on the dimensions, this kind of looks different, because it is dependent on the perspective. If you go to a higher dimension, you see that you have agreed to all of this. You have agreed to any suffering that you go through in this life. And it's part of a process. And any time you get to a junction, which we do regularly get to, you have the power and the will to decide what path you're taking in your path of evolving. And this gets very hard to explain, because basically our language is not formed around these terms. Because we're going into multidimensionality, where time and space don't exist in the way that we know it. And anyway, everything that appears dark is actually from the light in a costume. And if you realize that, you get somewhere where these feelings of fear or depression fall away, because you know that ultimately there is only light. And when these feelings fall away, you have already changed dimensions. You yourself have changed dimensions. And also, you are preparing the ground for other people to do the same thing. And that is our role in this transformational process, which is very important, because we as human beings, and when I say we as human beings, I'm not actually referring to absolutely everyone, because there's more than just human beings on this planet. But let's say we as human beings, and plus there's also hybrids, many hybrids. So when I say we as human beings, I would refer to the human side in people. So we as human beings are very special creatures, and that we are a junction of many, many, many possibilities and options. And we have influence from um, many different worlds, and we act as amplifiers, connectors, and channels for influences and different realms. And um, we are playing a big part in this transformation because we actually transform ourselves. We transform situations, we transform, we are transformers. And the way this happens is that through our perspective, if we look at a situation and we ourselves free us of all negative, dark feelings and emotions about that situation, we are actually transforming the situation for us and for everybody else. And the way this works is that from a higher dimension, when you look at that situation, you just see the unity of everything. You see that everything is one, and that in some way the situation serves a process or something and is helpful. So basically, because everything comes from light, this situation also comes from the light and is helpful, because basically the dark brings out the light. In the dimension that we exist, the one is not without the other. There's always two sides to the coin. So by recognizing that and focusing on that, the way that it looks from that perspective, the situation is actually helpful. Or, the good thing about something. Just basically sort out everything that's negative and depressing in your emotions and your thoughts, even by thinking about it in a neutral way. That then basically reminds everything that contributes to the situation, whether it be a person or anything like a structure, of the light that it actually is, and brings it to the forefront. And that's also the way that Jesus healed, because he saw people healed. He saw them as they truly were in their divine essence. And by seeing them in this way, that was how he reminded this person of who this person truly was. And his or her original state. In this way, a human being creates and actually affects things, can create much more than we can currently imagine. But what is very important in this, and in this whole process that we're going through, is to also purify ourselves, our intent, our paths, even down to our nutrition, to our way of spending our free time, and becoming of service. So basically, everything serves everything. And if you say no to this service, you're putting up a roadblock for yourself. And it may for a while appear that you are getting something out of it, but on the long run, you're not. On the long run, you can't be getting anything out of it because you are one with everything. You have never been, you never will be, and you never are separate from the whole. And if you think that you are, and you act separate from the whole and serving your own self, that means that it's a dead-end road. It's not going anywhere. So anything that you do always affects the collective. It always affects the whole. And if you're doing something that's not of service to the collective or to the whole, it's also not in service to yourself. And basically it's damaging. And of course that goes the other way around too. If you're doing something damaging and not of service to yourself, you're also doing the same thing for the whole, for the collective. These things cannot be taken apart. So it's very important now to walk on a path where you where you purify yourself. And basically that is also the urge for a lot of people right now, because they feel maybe the urge to change their diet, to eat less meat. They're becoming more sensitive to alcohol. Maybe they need more sleep. So a lot of people feel the energy that we are being provided with on the earth right now that is also pushing this transformation forward, and the vibration that is entering the planet, and then they physically react to it in these forms. So in order for you to get through all this in a pleasant way, as pleasant as possible, and in order for you also to protect yourself, in order for you to truly become the creator that you are, it's very important to purify your own intent and to see why you're doing things. Are you doing things for your own service? Or are you doing things because you are wanting to be in service to the greater good? Are you doing things from being connected to the divine? Or are you doing things for your own ego? Basically to inflate your own ego, so to say. So the more you purify yourself, the more powerful your word and your intent will be, because you are then connected to the divine and it is acting through you, and the divine is stronger than anything else in this world. And that's also, I'm referring to Jesus again, why Jesus always said, "Thank you, Father, that you heard me." And he didn't ask, "Please make this or that happen," because he knew it happened, because he was part of the divine, and he just asserted this through his form as a channeler and a connector and a transformer and an amplifier. The same way that we can do this. But in order to do this, basically, yeah, we need to purify ourselves. So, as I said, this is protecting us from anything bad that can vibrationally hook onto us. Essentially bad. You know, I'm not saying that all of a sudden everything's going to be beautiful and paradise, whatever. No. These influences, of course, are going to come and keep polishing our crystal. So the more we get accustomed to throwing all these bad emotions and thoughts out, the easier it will become and the stronger we will become in this. And basically, what is bad about any situation, if you look at it, it's not the situation, it's the feelings and the thoughts that we have about the situation. So the situation is what it is, and then we have thoughts and feelings about it, and they are bad, like they are negative, they make us feel awful. And we want to feel good, right? So we say the situation is bad and we blame the situation, but basically it's our feelings and thoughts that are bad. And if they are changed in a magical way, that transforms the situation as well. So we are ultimately all connected, and we are connected with everything that's going on. And every beautiful feeling, every beautiful thought we have creates something beautiful. And the same happens the other way around. Every horrible, fearful and dark thought and feeling that we have creates something dark. So if we say, oh, this war is being fought, yes, it is being fought, and we are very important active ingredients in it. Not only ingredients, but creators. So a lot of people are waiting for the end, and they say, oh, when is this going to end? When is the new world going to come? When will something happen? And then people go on to muse about dates and ways it'll change, or I don't know, whatever, the regime's going to fall and this is going to happen and this person's going to save us, or this is going to make a difference and it'll happen at that point, and or it won't happen, or oh, we're going to go through a couple of dark years and all this kind of thing. And all these seeing into the future, so to speak, is never really valid, because basically also, sorry, need to adjust this again. I hope I'm going to get better at this on the long run. So all these prophecies basically are never 100% sure, because anything can change on the run, in the process, and that depends on the way that we think, we act, and we feel. And I always think that the word timeline that everybody uses is very prone to misunderstanding, because it implies that there is a line, and time is not a line. Time is has junctions everywhere. So the so-called timeline is never a line, because it can change any moment. So where is the line? I mean, maybe it triggers an unfolding of events, but any event has another timeline waiting for it that can be changed. So basically, the word timeline is very strange. So anyway, so if you make these prophecies, they are never 100% true. Everything is pretty flexible, and maybe you can assume, or you can see tendencies. That's very possible. But as I said, they can never be 100% anticipated, and it depends on you what becomes of them. So, not on you only, of course, but also on you. And plus, if when we always wait for something in the future to happen, and we say, "Oh, how long is this going to take?" and when this will this finally be over, and all this kind of thing, you don't really take into consideration the fact that it depends a lot on the way that you deal with the situation right now, and you actually understand the power that you have in this particular moment, and this particular moment only, so to speak, to change what is happening as a transformer. And that means that you are no victim. You create your own world, and the way that you create your own world, you create it for others too. And people can live in the same situation, and one says, "Oh, it's wonderful," and somebody else says, "Oh, it's horrible." I experienced this in my childhood where, my sister and I experienced the same things in a very different way. And they were the same situations, but they were experienced in a completely different fashion. So get into the moment now and transform the moment for you right now. This is the best that you can do for yourself and for the world. And don't always look into the future to, "Oh, when is this going to end? When is something's going to change," and all that, because you are making yourself a victim again, and you're giving your power away to the outside circumstances. You are not truly in your power as the creator being that you are. Yeah, so maybe I'll end here right now. I am hoping that this doesn't turn out too bad. And as I said, I'm just starting with this, so please bear with me. I hope I'm going to be getting better. uh, Go out into nature, do things that you enjoy, and connect with the divine. And I'll be on here again soon. Bye.